Can the Oklahoma Sooners actually fix their offensive line?
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Sooner Nation? Welcome to Locked On Sooners, and thank you for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. I'm John Williams. He's Jay Smith. The topic of today, we're going to talk offensive line. Jackson Arnold for 2025. And what's going on in the SEC? Just crazy stuff happening. But along the offensive line, Jay, something's got to change.
Oh, yeah. And it sounds like we're going to get a change. Unfortunately, it sounds like Jacob Sexton's probably going to be down maybe for a little bit. Hopefully not long. Nothing's been truly confirmed. But Brent Venables did make mention that with his injury, they're going to bring up Isaiah Autry, the true freshman out of Mississippi, to move in the rotation on the offensive line. So it sounds like he'll probably be within the 2 deep, potentially may get some run against Maine, in which this game is the perfect one to really test him out, as well as some of the other true freshmen, because not only do you preserve their red shirt, but now you can see, all right, I've heard that they're a pretty nasty group. Like, they like nasty. They like to take people out. And if that's the case, we could kind of use that not only for Maine, but definitely on the road against Missouri.
Yeah, so Isaiah Autry getting an opportunity. If you go back to April, Brent Venables actually spoke pretty highly of him back then during fall camp towards the end of it. So this is an encouraging sign for a true freshman that is going to get an opportunity. How much of an opportunity we'll see? Are they going to roll out Logan Howland as a starter at left tackle and give him the first opportunity against Maine? Or is it, hey, this week we're opening up the competition between Logan Howland and maybe Isaiah Autry and Spencer Brown just to see what's going to create our best 5 fit? Because you may need those guys, not just for Maine, but you might need them for Missouri the following week before you have a bye. I mean, if Jacob Sexton is going to be out for Missouri, you kind of have to figure out your offensive line game plan, not just for Maine, but for Missouri, and then maybe even beyond, depending on how long Jacob Sexton is going to be out. So I think you have to explore all of your options here. Does it make sense to have, Eugene Brooks in the lineup, Eddie Pierre-Louis, like some of these guys? Are they going to get some run? But the idea that they're calling up Isaiah Autry, I mean, it sounds like they're going to give him a shot, which is kind of cool to see. Now, 4 games left in the season, you're not so concerned with burning a red shirt at this point, and It's going to give some guys opportunities to get some significant snaps.
Yeah, and bringing him up is kind of an interesting term. It sounds like he was probably a couple of places into the actual depth chart. But no, if Brent Venables and Bill Beatonbow feels like it's time to go ahead and unleash the young guys, which I actually anticipated the Maine game was when we was going to see a lot of the freshmen, because Maine's a pretty small team. Like, the FCS schools are typically pretty small. And now they're feisty, but they're small. So we should be able to go ahead and get enough push around to get everybody truly warmed up in a game-like scenario without it being too, hazardly to us or whatnot. But yeah, if that's the case, like I said, I want to see all the young guys in this game. Give me some BJ Brooks. Give me a little Josh Isosa. Probably won't play him at center, but it's good to play them all at the guard spots, just so that we can see what they're made of when we, like you say, looking long-term into the rest of the season. If Autry Dent goes out there, if Zay balls out, you may need to go ahead and just let him play, because this is going to be our eighth configuration in 9 games this season. So we've only had 2 games where we had the exact same offensive line, and we all know that that's just awful, and that's never a recipe for success. But at the same time, if you finally find one and get your little continuity, the good thing is we'll take this game, play Missouri, and then we'll head into a bye week, which will give us additional time prepping for Alabama as well as LSU.
And I'll be curious to know when Jake Taylor is available as well, because that also creates some of your decision-making there as well. If Jake Taylor's available, then Michael Tarkin can be your left tackle, And then you're rolling with probably Heath Ozaida at left guard, Everett at center, Weiwu at right guard. And you've got some experience out there. But if Taylor's not going to be available, because he's been dealing with a lot of injuries this year, if he's not going to be available, you're going to have to turn to a young guy out there at offensive tackle. You may not want to, but you're going to have to. And like we saw this past week, maybe Logan Howland just isn't quite ready this season. That doesn't mean he can't ever be a good player. It just means that right now it's just a little bit too much for him. But maybe a guy like Isaiah Autry is actually a little bit better to step in right away, despite maybe some limited experience.
Yeah, I mean, you got to remember Logan Howland is more of a converted tight end anyway.
Yeah,
he came in, he was a larger size, he was converted, and he plays tackle now, and he's over 300, so he's a big kid. It's more so getting adjusted and used to playing in that role, and so yeah, with the way that he didn't perform very well in this last game. He hasn't really performed very well this entire season as he's learning. But at the same time, like you mentioned, I mean, he's a redshirt freshman. So I went back and looked at the depth chart and the players. In our 3 deep, we have 8 players with 1 year of experience or less, are either true sophomore, redshirt freshman, or freshman. 8 of the 15 in that 3 deep are coming in with that kind of experience. And so since they don't have much, we kind of shot ourselves in the foot. And I put out a video on my channel over at Unfair Sports, kind of really diving in details. But the Cliff's notes here is when BV got here, the class that was coming in that they were salvaging had 2 linemen in it: Jacob Sexton, Jake Taylor.
That's it.
And so the 2 years before is when you were supposed to have been stacking up players to where you had juniors and seniors going into the SEC. Well, vast majority of them transferred out. So either they were processed or they transferred. And to be honest, none of them played last year either. So it kind of gives you an idea. I mean, Caden Green was a true freshman playing last year, and he's transferred. And unfortunately now he's not even starting anymore in Missouri. So in that case, it appears that the players we were trying to put together to be prepared, we didn't have any veterans. So we ended up walking into this year, trying to figure it out. All the veterans we have are transfers, and that still means they got to figure out chemistry and continuity. And then with all the injuries on top of it, John, none of this stuff is working out the way that you would have wanted it to. And so if there's anything that I would be upset with Brent Venables and Bill Beatonbow on, that is they probably should have took more transfers the first year. Probably should have cleaned house a little bit more at that point. Now, I know you ripped it to the studs. Probably should have went ahead and took them studs down too and just added a few more posts.
Yeah, or even double dipped in this year's transfer portal to add more competitive depth. And who knows if you could have gotten guys, but yeah, just trying to find as many pieces available. Now, that's probably why they had a big offensive line class for 2024 and why they're going to have another big offensive line class in 2025, fingers crossed. And because you have to rebuild that depth that wasn't there whenever you took over. Because again, you look at some of the players that were highly rated prospects at the end of the Lincoln Riley era, the Bray Walkers, the Savion Birds, the Nate Andersons, all those guys were blue chip prospects that did not pan out at Oklahoma. And
we had a lot of people. Yeah.
Haven't quite yet panned out elsewhere either. So there was definitely Bill Beatonbow is going to own some of that. Lincoln Riley is going to own some of that. The strength and conditioning program at the time is going to own some of that as well. So there was a lot that had to be retooled, restructured, and rebuilt along the offensive line. And it's further behind than what we had anticipated. And there's not a lot of time to get it fixed as you get ready for the 2025 offseason. And you've got to figure out if some of these young guys are going to be able to help you, not just this year, but next year. One guy that might be able to help the Oklahoma Sooners is that Jackson Arnold. Is he the guy for 2025? Let's discuss coming up next on Locked On Sooners. Hey, Sooners fans, it's time to recognize the Roy Player of the Week. So far this season, we've pulled over $20,000 to support players on Roy. Micro deposits lead to massive change. With the Roy app, you can direct your support to athletes you love, ensuring that all funds go directly to the players that you choose. Unlike collectives, you know exactly where your support is going, and you even receive exclusive content like personal videos and updates after the season. The best part, it's risk-free. If the athlete transfers or doesn't deliver the content, you get your money back. This week, we're supporting Javante Barnes. We pitched in $100, and I'd love for you to join us as well. Even $10 makes a difference. Let's show Javante the love and keep him connected to our school. Remember, pay today, celebrate tomorrow. Your support sets your team up for success. Plus, don't miss out on Roy's exciting giveaway. Win 2 tickets to a game in November. Just download Roy, create an account, and enter referral code Locked On, and you're entered. Already on Roy, any contribution to an athlete's campaign also gets you entered automatically. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited. Download Roy now and join the NIL game with no subscriptions and no fees. And be sure to check us out on Instagram, Facebook, and X at Roy_return_on_you for more info. Roy, support the players, change the game. So Jackson Arnold had a much improved performance from the last time that we'd seen him. Even better than South Carolina, but far better than what we saw against Tennessee. So it makes me wonder if he can continue to produce in a similar fashion. I'm not saying the numbers are going to be exactly the same, but if he takes care of the football the final 4 games of the year, gives Oklahoma a chance to score points, puts Oklahoma in a chance to be in these games, do you think he would have done enough for the Sooners to feel comfortable running it back in 2025 with Jackson?
I actually expect that. If Jackson Arnold finishes the season looking calm, cool, and collective, the offense looks like it's starting to hum, at least looks like it's not just, it looks like it actually has a sputter and hasn't stalled completely. I think that's what you end up doing is having Jackson Arnold going into 2025, but you do make it a true competition. So you're going to have competing dudes between Jackson Arnold, Michael Hawkins, Brendan Zurbrugg, Kevin Sperry. You're going to have all of them competing for the spot. And whomever does not win it at the end of the spring, you should go ahead and redshirt. And that way they can go through development, continue to be there just in case they decide they want to play. Or if they decide they want to go ahead and transfer out after the season. But I think that you find a way to keep both quarterbacks because we know that both love Oklahoma. Jackson Arnold always said he wants to be the quarterback at Oklahoma. Michael Hawkins Jr. is the legacy, and we know that him and his dad loves the idea of him being here, especially because his brother Malik will be here next season as well. So you're just adding a whole bunch of layers that makes it a little bit more complicated. But I do believe that Michael Hawkins and Jackson Arnold should be your quarterbacks in 2025 competing for it. And you just got to find a way to keep both of them. But you're right, John. Jackson Arnold has had a very up and down year, but this last game really kind of reignited the hope I had in him from jump. This is what I saw at Denton Guyer up until, he took 6 sacks in 2 possessions. But it felt like the guy that we saw as the Gatorade National Player of the Year and all of that. It's just unfortunate that he walked into this scenario. I'm just hoping he doesn't have the David Carr, Sam Bradford PTSDs from their NFL days of getting used to getting hit before they can hike the ball. The line should get better, especially with the young guys. We just need them to get out there and get some more snaps, make sure they understand the plays. But overall, I think we'll be fine going forward. I'm just praying that they don't make me look stupid.
Well, I think he's shown enough. When he's playing within the offense, he's shown enough that you want to continue to develop him because he's shown off some big time arm talent. He's shown off really good escapability. He's shown good poise under pressure. It's just a matter of now putting something around him that's actually functional offensively. They made the change in offensive coordinator and things were a little bit more cohesive. There was a little bit better rhythm, and I expect it will continue to get better. You get some health at wide receiver. You develop some guys at wide receiver. That's going to make his job a whole lot easier. You find consistent offensive line play that allows you to run the ball consistently. That's going to make his job a whole lot easier as well. As much as we want to, elevate the Kylers, the Bakers, the Jalen's, elite players, great all-timers, they had really good run games, really good offensive lines, and really good pass catchers that they were working with as well. I'm not sitting here trying to say that Jackson Arnold is anywhere near the same echelon that those guys are in. But those guys, they'll even tell you they had a great group of dudes around them that made their jobs easier. So that's not to say this takes everything off of Jackson Arnold's shoulders. He's got to continue to get better. He's got to continue to improve. He cannot just sit there and say, hey, my line's got to be better. And remember, it's the old remember the Titans conversation between Coach Boone and Petey. When Petey fumbles the ball and Coach Boone asks him, why'd you fumble my ball? And he said, my blockers were bad. And Coach Boone says, well, what does the blocking have to do with you fumbling my football? It's the same for Jackson Arnold. Take care of what you can take care of, control what you can control, take care of the football, make the plays that are there to make, and the rest will take care of itself.
Yeah, it will. All you got to do is get them out there, let them compete, make sure that Jackson Arnold has the right plays to be comfortable with going forward, and we'll be fine. I think, John, the one thing I'm curious about is what do you expect to see going forward as far as the playbook? Can we rely on this staff of Joe John Finley and Kevin Johns to really leverage the check down, at least until the offensive line feels like it's more cohesive, and then we can start hitting more deep passes, or the running backs can block very well in like max protect? Are you confident in saying that we're probably going to see a lot more check downs going forward?
Maybe.
I know. See,
it's hard to
That's
know.
where I struggle too.
We've got one game with Joe John Finley as the play caller, one game with Jackson Arnold and Joe John Finley working together. I think they made some things simpler for Jackson Arnold. And that's what you have to do sometimes. I mean, go watch the NFL. Like, the best offensive coordinators are the ones that are making things simple for their quarterbacks, even the ones that have really good quarterbacks. Like, look at Mike McDaniel and Tua Tagovailoa. Like, he's a good quarterback, but Mike McDaniel makes everything super simple for him. Like, he creates simple completions that allow them to be efficient. You don't have to make everything super complicated and super difficult on your quarterback for your offense to be good. And I think that's what Seth Luttrell tried to do, is just tried to work everything down the field, made everything really, really complicated. And there was no check down game. There was nothing underneath that was happening very consistently. And I felt like you found some things underneath that made your offense work a little bit better. And you found a run game that actually functioned over the last couple of weeks. And that's huge, man. Listen, I love the passing offense. I love wide receiver play. Absolutely love it. But if you don't have a functional run game, it makes everything so much more difficult. And
it does.
And you don't even have to have an Adrian Peterson-like run game. You saw the first half with Javonte Barnes this past week. When the run game was cooking, the offense was moving. And so I expect that they'll continue to find some of that. I mean, watch LSU, dude. LSU, and we'll talk about it coming up next, but LSU absolutely struggled to contain Marcel Reed. You get to the end of the season, and Jackson Arnold's now got another few starts under his belt going into Baton Rouge. Like, they might have a hard time containing Jackson Arnold's running ability, because he's a really good runner as well. That's now, true. Oklahoma's offensive line, Texas A&M's offensive line, they're not in the same stratosphere either, but that creates an opportunity for you to get better. I like the way that they leveraged Jackson's running ability and gave him room to scramble. Like, he just played with a whole lot more confidence than what we saw against Tennessee.
Yeah, that's how you felt. You felt like he was just playing like he was playing in high school. Yeah. That's the Jackson Arnold I want going forward. If we can keep getting that version of him, I think I'll be satisfied. I'll be satisfied, at least for this season. Next year, I want him to step up his game, and I try to give grace to young players, especially, true sophomores who are kind of tossed out there without an offensive line. Again, I still feel like he reminds me of Drake May when he's at his best. In Drake May's true freshman year, it was a little rocky, but he was like, okay, I see the talent. I think Jackson still has that. I just don't want him to try to truck people anymore. Stop doing that little jackhammer offensive play run where he runs right up the middle, try to run over. No, Jackson Arnold's a dual threat. But put that man in space and let him go out there and cook some folks.
Yeah, I like the way that they ran the read option this past weekend. I think they'll continue to do that. But I also like the way that he just, it was the Steve Young moments, right? Mm-hmm. There was nothing available downfield, so you picked up 5, 8, 10, 12 yards scrambling. That's what made Steve Young so dangerous. It wasn't all the design quarterback runs. It was all the scramble runs that made him so good at what he did. And I think Jackson Arnold has the ability to really irritate and annoy defenses with his scrambling ability. So I'm excited to see how he continues to develop.
I agree with you there. And there's one thing that I did notice, though, on those read options. There were a few times he should have kept it. He probably would have got 12 yards or even scored a touchdown in one of those if he would have went ahead and kept it instead of handing it off. So that's stuff you learn. That's stuff that you're going to grow from, and I think he will.
Yep, he will. And I thought it already looked better than what it had previously in the season. The SEC is just bonkers this year. We're going to discuss what's gone down and what happened this past weekend in the SEC coming up next here on Locked On Sooners.
Get ready to tackle NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. So you got to pick that easy dub. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need in places like live bets to the NFL, all in one place. And even in college, like for example, Oklahoma's spread has changed, John. It's jumped up to 34.5. So a 3-point swing in the last 24 hours since we talked to y'all. So it's something to check out. So if you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bet. So just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment the more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
Again, thanks for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. Let's go through the SEC, Jay, because there was a lot of interesting action there.
SEC.
Where do you want to start? You want to start with the biggest game of the weekend, that Texas A&M LSU matchup. First of all, phenomenal uniform combo. Like, the Aggies all black might be my new favorite, and I hate to say that.
So I don't have a problem. I think the all black is cool. The only issue I ever have with any team wearing all black is when it's like literally only black and white. Give me accents of your primary color. Like, no school hates their team color more than Iowa State because they wear them black jerseys as often as they possibly can. West Virginia's coal miner black ones, they're pretty clean. Give me some hints of the blue and the yellow. Give me some hints of that cardinal and the yellow. Give me some hints of that Aggie maroon in that black and white, just so you can see. Like the way Tennessee's going to do their blackout this week. It's literally all black with orange and some white accents. Love that. That is my favorite look. I just don't want people to hate their own team colors. But man, that's a big one. I am curious how that tailgate looked because I went to the one in the Grove. It's as advertised. But College Station was rocking for that game. And Elko, man, he's proven me right. I'll just say that.
Yeah, he's shown up in a big way. And this might be our first beef here. I prefer the all black without the color involved. Give me the all black with just a little bit of the white. And I like that they had a little bit of it was the Aggies wasn't even white. It was just a different shade there. It was, I don't know. Yeah. I thought it was perfect. But no, man.
I'm with you.
Texas A&M, dude, they got down 17-7 in this game and outscored LSU 31-6 in the second half with Marcel Reed at quarterback, and he only threw 2 passes. He was 2 of 2 for 70 yards, but he ran for 3 touchdowns, all in the red zone. Just gave them fits. The Ags ran for 240 yards on LSU. So if you're looking at a way to make some hay against the Tigers, running the football might be it.
One of the most dangerous quarterbacks out there, one of the most dangerous teams. I mean, they literally went out there and played the Michigan playbook, and they just ran it down their throat with all power.
It worked.
I will have Sooner fans in here like, oh, we probably should have looked at Elko as a coach, blah, blah, blah. Let me explain to y'all why Elko is so successful right now. You got to remember, the dudes that are juniors and seniors on defense right now are dudes he recruited when he was defensive coordinator 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. These are his guys. Was it Shamar Turner in the middle? I think it's Turner. That was one of his prize defensive line recruits when Elko was defensive coordinator at A&M. And so there's a lot more continuity there because all these dudes know him. They played in his defense. They understand his scheme. They're like, oh, yeah, Elko was here when I was a freshman. He was the one teaching me. He was here when I was a sophomore. Right now I'm a senior or a redshirt senior, and I get to play underneath them. He came back to the perfect spot because this is where he had came from. He had seen some players. I mean, Marcel Reed's new to him, but Weidman's been around forever. It feels like it's been like for like 30 years. It feels like he's been a quarterback for this team. But Weidman was a recruit when Elko was still there before he took the Duke job. So he's killing it. It's gonna be interesting to see them this week against Texas A&M. Against South Carolina. Mm-hmm. The spread came out for that game, John. What do you think it is?
It's in Columbia, right?
Yep.
I'm going to say Texas A&M by 6.5.
Ooh, wow. That's a big spread. No, much lower. A&M is a 2.5 point favorite in this game. It's low, which tells you actually how good South Carolina is, especially at home. I think it's because it's going to be a run team versus, this South Carolina defense, which is pretty stout, especially the defensive line. It's going to be fascinating to see if they can prevail. But the question I'd ask you on this one, though, is LSU in trouble?
They're a little bit in trouble. I mean, they can score and they can throw the ball. Garrett Nussmeier is really, really good. But, man, he was really loose with the football. 3 interceptions. That's not going to do it for you. I think they have a chance to still make the playoff, obviously, but it's going to be a long shot to get into the SEC title game, I think, at this point. But, dude, I think I counted it the other day. There were 8 teams, I think, with 2 losses or fewer in SEC play with, 5-6 weeks left to go. I mean, there's a lot that could change in the conference standings. I mean, just look right now. Like, everybody thought it was going to be Texas. Well, Georgia beat Texas. And then Georgia got beat by Bama. And Bama got beat by Tennessee and Vandy. So, like, everything is crazy and up in the air. Speaking of Vandy, played Texas pretty close. It was a 1-score game in Nashville. Listen, credit to the Texas Longhorns. That is a scrappy Vanderbilt team. I know that's not in our worldview to think Vanderbilt is any good, but circle back to like the Kansas Jayhawks of 2021, right? That was a really, really scrappy Kansas Jayhawks team that you felt lucky to come away with a win. I think Texas is just happy to get a win on the road in a place where, hey, they knocked off Alabama just a few weeks ago.
Yeah, they just wanted to get out of there alive. That's like the most important thing for them. We just want to survive this game and go. And I told everybody there was no way Texas was covering that spread. And
no way.
Pretty obvious. There was zero chance that Texas covered that spread because Vanderbilt does a really good job of running clock. That has been that's the whole MO of them. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because Hugh Freeze is just talking about recently he's tired of playing against Diego Pavia because this will be, his 3rd time seeing him, because Pavia was at New Mexico. Was it New Mexico State? Yeah, New Mexico State Aggies. And they beat them at Auburn. Mm-hmm. So, look, you can talk about what you want to about a team's home, but once you lose to a 4-acronym school, you can't say anything. That's right. The words got to go. Don't give me anything. And the problem for them is they're going to see this dude again this weekend. I'm so excited. At that 11 o'clock kickoff is going to be the one game that I'm going to be tuned in so hard. Now, Auburn is a 6.5 point favorite at the crib. Feels a lot higher than I would expect, and they actually think Auburn's going to win this game. But people, like you said, you can't sleep on Vanderbilt because honestly, when you look at them this season, John, no one's blown them out. Or gotten close to it. Every game was within 4 points that they've lost. The Georgia State game, which ridiculous, shouldn't happen, but whatever. Missouri, overtime, 3-point game. Texas, 3-point game. Everything has been close. They're just that good, I guess you could say.
Yeah, take Vandy in the points pretty much anytime you get a chance to this season because that's easy money. The other ranked matchup that is of interest to the Oklahoma Sooner fandom, Alabama absolutely dominates Missouri 34-0. I know Brady Cook goes out in this game and Drew Pine finished it. Drew Pine, I think, threw 3 interceptions in this one, averaged just 3.5 yards per pass attempt. Well, Brady Cook, He only averaged 2.5 yards per pass attempt in this one. Just absolute killer. I thought Missouri was going to be able to play a little bit closer than this. It was never close. Even with Brady Cook in the game, it was never close.
Yep, Pine was 6 for 12, 42 yards. Cook 7 for 12, 30 yards. It was like they for real could not. Well, Pine threw 3 interceptions as well, but it looked like they could not figure out how to pass the ball on this Bama team. And Bama just did. They went old school Nick Saban, Alabama. They just ran down their throats. 271 rushing yards in this game. I think that was the thing that fascinated me the most. It was like, oh, they're like, no, we're not going to even try to throw it. We're good. We're going to run it down your throat, and we're going to tell you to try to stop us. And they couldn't. Even though Marcel Carroll got them 80 yards and was Jamal Roberts got them 71, they had 167 yards rushing in this game net. Missouri did not do bad on that capacity, but Bama was like, you're not going to throw the ball, which is your strength. Luther Burden, 3 catches for 3 yards.
I saw a Mizzou fan talk about how they've wasted Luther Burden's time in Columbia with the quarterback play that they've gotten. You love to see it. The other one that was really fascinating, and I'll let you maybe share one of your favorite kind of takes or moments. Actually, we got to get to this really more than anything. Talk about your time in the Grove in Oxford. What was it like there?
So, look, if you ever get the opportunity to get out there for a game, go. Find a team that you hate. I mean, I think Texas should end up going there in about 3 years, maybe 4. Get out there. Well, yeah, 2 years or 3. Go out there, go see it. It's cool. They basically like 4 to 6 acres. We know it's called the Grove, but it's like tents, and it felt like I was at a giant flea market / swap meet with all of the tents that were up. And once you start walking through the tunnels, it's like you can't find an exit. It's amazing. Like I had to set breadcrumbs down to find my way back to the trail that I came through, but I made sure to do that. I had some peanuts and some breadcrumbs, and I just kept dropping it as I walked and turned a few places. And I was like, all right, that way back to the stadium, and I figured it out. But it's huge. Everybody was very hospitable. They were nice. And I actually, when I posted that tweet, I've got a good 50 plus Ole Miss fans in there saying how much they loved Sooner Nation, how great we travel, and how awesome they were to hang out with. They're like, yeah, you guys can come back anytime. We had a blast. They only saying that because they won the game. If they had lost the game, they probably would have been like, nah, y'all can't come back here. Y'all bad luck for us. But it was a good time. It's one of those tailgates that I was more impressed because I've always heard the legends of it, and legends rarely ever live up to reality. I think this one may have surpassed it.
That's awesome. What was the stadium like?
Stadium was cool. About 60,000 people. It wasn't massive. I think the best part about it was seeing everybody in that powder blue color.
Yeah.
Now that's an alternate jersey I love. And when all the fans are wearing it too, that matching powder blue / really, really light denim that they were, oh man, it pops beautifully with the sky. So they did a great job with that. Stadium is cool. It's older. You can tell that's one of the oldest ones in the country, but it didn't feel like it felt old, but it didn't look like it was run down. Let's put it that way.
Right.
It's definitely an older stadium, but it was definitely one that I want to go back to. I enjoy my time out there in Oxford. Got to make that happen again.
And what was the vibe like during the game when, hey, Oklahoma actually gets a 14-10 lead just before halftime? Ole Miss starts turning some things on in the second half. What was kind of the energy, the feel around you like?
No shade, but I think Cincinnati was louder when we played them last year. Oh, it's not very loud. Like it's cool, but it's not deafening. Like
it didn't sound loud on TV.
No, it's not. It's not. I think for them the biggest problem is that they spend a lot of time at the Grove, and by the time they get to the game, they're not rowdy drunks. They're more
just
drunks.
Chilling.
Yeah.
Like they're going to the beach later, something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's wasting away in Margaritaville. They lost their shaker of salt. So
fair point.
Anyway, yeah. So dude, that's really awesome. Thanks for sharing your experience there. Yeah, we'll have to get down to the Grove at some point. Hopefully it's not too long before Oklahoma makes a trip back there, because I want to go there and I want to take my wife. I think that'd be a really cool place to visit as well. But that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Sooners. Thanks so much for tuning in, being a part of the show. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. Also follow the show on all the social media platforms, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, wherever you like to do your social media, we are present. Follow Jay at Unfair Sports. Also go check out his channel, Unfair Sports, on YouTube. You can follow me at John9Williams. You can read my work covering the Sooners over at SoonersWire.com. But until next time, he's Jay. I'm John. Boomer.
Sooner.